Hey, and welcome to Tax Talk with the Tax Queen. My name is Heather Ryan. I am also known as the Tax Queen. I am an enrolled agent, and that means I'm licensed to practice taxes in all 50 states.
Hey, and today I'm going over 3 reasons why you shouldn't file your tax return late. If you're already late, get to it. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to go over the reasons why I think it's really important to file on time, and if you need extra time to take that extension. Let's go over some due dates. Okay, so we understand that as well. And then just some reasons why you shouldn't file late. So what defines a late filing, right? Anything that is filed after the due date. Simple enough, right? But what about an extension? And it applies to that as well. So if you file for an extension, you do get that extra 6 months. And if you take 7 months, now you're late. So just be aware of that. Typically, your tax return is due April 15th. That's your personal tax return. It can vary by a few days if there's a holiday or, like a long weekend in there, falls on a Saturday or Sunday, or as we've seen in 2020, 2021, it can be based on natural disaster that's happening, or possibly even pandemics. So just be aware, normal deadline is April 15th. Pay attention if things do get extended in that year, but normally we're just going to play around with April 15th. So if you file an extension, you're then available to file until October 15th. So you have until October 15th and you're not considered late. So remember, filing is separate from paying. So I want you to understand that. That's a really important fact. So if you owe taxes, your taxes are due April 15th, unless extended, like we talked about on natural disasters, all that jazz. Let's just consider April 15th is your deadline to pay your taxes. So if you file your tax return in March, so March 20th, you file your tax return, make sure that payment is in by April 15th. You're still on time, perfectly good there. If you file an extension and you don't file your tax return until September 20th, you better have paid your taxes by April 15th. April 14th, that's fine too. But don't wait until September to pay them. So extensions do not grant you the extra time to pay the taxes. So the first reason why you should not file late is because if you file late or fail to file at all, maybe several years later, the IRS can actually create a return for you. What? That sounds crazy, but it's true. So if 1099s or W-2s and things, forms are filed on your behalf, matching your name and social security number, the IRS has the right to create its own return. And it's always, I've almost always seen it be higher than what you would normally do because they don't take any of your expenses. So if you're a 1099, right, receive 1099 NEC or 1099 miscellaneous, normally you get to take expenses against that income. And without knowing that, the IRS doesn't know what your expenses are, it almost always will create a return and higher taxes than you actually might owe. So you do not want this scenario. You don't want to get this created for you return by the IRS and have to scramble within a certain time frame that they give you to create an accurate return. So I would rather see you be ahead of the game and file that return. I mean, even if you're late right now, just get it done. Okay. Spend the time, spend the energy, put together the records, create the expenses as best you can from bank statements, from credit card statements, and get it done, because you don't want a created for you return. We'll call that, yes. Plus, if you file late, you're actually increasing your odds of an IRS audit. And you don't want that either, right? So 2 things let's avoid, right? So generally the IRS audits about 1% of tax returns, higher if you have red flags on that return. And if you are late in filing your return, the IRS audit increases by 50%, right? 50%. So let's keep it to 1% instead of 50. So I think those are 2 great reasons. The other reasons are really just with added costs. So without filing, failure to file, there's penalties and there's interest. So you're going to trigger the 5% interest, and sometimes that interest rate can fluctuate, depending on what else is happening in the world and in the government, and it will never exceed 25% of the tax that is due. So just by procrastinating and not filing, you just created possibly late filing penalties and interest. So failure to file is just not, who wants to add to their tax bill, right? It's just not worth it. So there's no deductions, you don't get to take that on next year's return or anything if you have interest or penalties. That's just, you owe it, and it's just adding to your tax bill. So I really suggest, what am I saying? Oh yeah, don't file late. File on time, avoid those penalties, avoid paying the government or the IRS extra money than you already owe. Yeah, just also don't risk that audit, right? So if you're struggling, and just, hopefully this gives you a little bit a better incentive to get that tax return filed. I also want to reiterate that if you are due a refund, so if you've paid in enough or more than enough through W-2 salaries or even through your estimated tax payments, if you've paid in more than you're going to owe, you have 3 years to file and collect that refund. So really, you're not technically late if you filed in November or October without an extension. If you're just requesting a refund of money you've already paid in, the IRS doesn't count that as late, so you won't see any penalties. Obviously, there's no interest because, you don't owe anything, right? You actually are due a refund. But I always like to say, if you're due a refund, why let the government sit on that money? You should have that money in your own account, so you can do with it as you please, or you can earn interest on it if you have a savings account that you want to put it in. But I'd rather see the money in your hands than the government or the IRS. So just be aware, these are the 3 reasons why you shouldn't file your tax return late.